Picture this. You're looking down on a sprawling, dark, rain-soaked megacity known as Airstrip 1. Through this heavy, deep blue-gray smog, these absolute behemoths of buildings, massive, brutalist pyramids just loom over the entire skyline. And underneath it all, there's this relentless, deep ticking of a clock. Time is running out. Welcome to our explainer. Today we're tearing into the architecture of absolute suffocating control in George Orwell's defining masterpiece, 1984.
Right out of the gate, the dark streets flash with these massive, overwhelming text overlays blasting from omnipresent telescreens. War is peace. Freedom is slavery, just hammered into the citizens' minds over and over to completely drown out any spark of independent thought.
Ignorance is strength, and hiding beneath this heavy, paranoid atmosphere, we find our protagonist, Winston Smith. He's 35, he has this incredibly tired, worn-out face, and he's tucked away in a tiny alcove, desperately trying to stay out of the telescreen's view, just so he can secretly write in a diary.
Because in the deeply oppressive world of Oceania, the dark eyes and heavy mustache of Big Brother follow you literally everywhere. From every street corner, every poster, every two-way television screen, you are never, ever alone. But to really grasp the terror of this society, we actually need to look at Orwell's real-world blueprints.
You see, Orwell didn't just pull this nightmare out of thin air. He built it brick by brick from the horrors that were unfolding right in front of him. He survived the intense propaganda of the Spanish Civil War, where, by the way, he actually caught a sniper bullet to the throat, and he watched the terrifying rise of dictators like Hitler and Stalin. And honestly, the irony here is just wild. While he was writing this ultimate warning about a surveillance state, Orwell himself was actively being spied on by the British government's special branch. By the time 1984 was published in 1949, Oceania was really just a dark mirror reflecting the absolute worst parts of the 20th century.
Now, the party's entire machinery of compliance is built on this brilliant, twisted deception. They give their government branches these incredibly comforting names that mask devastating realities. Okay, get a load of this. The Ministry of Truth, that's entirely dedicated to propaganda and lying. The Ministry of Peace, it's literally the engine for perpetual, endless war. The Ministry of Love is a terrifying fortress used for torture. And the Ministry of Plenty, they engineer artificial starvation and shortages. It's a completely inverted reality, all designed to keep the citizens confused, weak, and utterly dependent.
So the crucial takeaway here is that the thought police don't just care about what you do, they police your actual mind. Which brings us to the ultimate, unforgivable offense in Oceania, thought crime. This isn't an action. It's just the mere tendency to even conceive of having a private life, a secret belief, or an independent thought. In this society, a slight frown, a nervous tick, or even just murmuring in your sleep can completely betray you. And the punishment? It isn't just death, it's vaporization, complete, total erasure from existence. It's like you never were.
So you're probably wondering, how on earth do you survive in a society that polices your unspoken thoughts? Well, you have to use this psychological survival mechanism that the party calls doublethink. This is the act of holding two completely contradictory beliefs in your head at the exact same time and genuinely accepting both of them as true. To survive, citizens literally have to break their own minds. If the party tells you that 2 + 2 = 5, you don't just repeat it out of fear. No, you have to actually rewire your brain to sincerely believe it.
And to enforce this kind of massive cognitive rewiring, the party destroys history. Winston's actual day job involves dropping inconvenient old newspaper articles down these things called memory holes to be incinerated forever. But alongside destroying the past, he's also witnessing the rollout of a brand new, insidious weapon, a dictionary. They call it newspeak, and it's a completely fabricated language designed by the state to systematically shrink the English vocabulary. Just think about that for a second. Instead of adding words to expand human expression, they are actively destroying words to restrict the spectrum of human thought. By literally cutting out words related to freedom, or rebellion, or justice, the party guarantees that defining them becomes cognitively impossible. Think about it. If you literally don't have the words to formulate a rebellious thought, how could you ever possibly rebel?
But despite this absolutely terrifying level of control, human nature still tries to fight back. We see these quick, tense flashes of rebellion. A secret note passed in the hallway from a coworker named Julia. A fleeting, highly illegal romance. They even try to seek out this mythical underground resistance, reaching out to an elite inter-party official named O'Brien. But it's all an illusion. O'Brien was watching the whole time. It was a trap. In a flash, the black-clad thought police kick down the door, and Winston and Julia are dragged straight into the nightmare of the Ministry of Love.
And deep inside the Ministry of Love is where the true horror show begins. O'Brien systematically starves and tortures Winston, methodically breaking down his ego and his mind. And during this, O'Brien reveals the chilling, quiet truth of the party. He says, "The old civilizations claimed that they were founded on love or justice. Ours is founded upon hatred." He makes it perfectly clear that the party doesn't seek power to achieve some kind of future utopia. They don't care about wealth. Power is not a means to an end for them. Power is the end. Absolute, eternal control over humanity is the only goal.
The absolute climax of this psychological destruction brings us deep, deep underground to Room 101. Actually, fun, slightly dark fact here, Orwell named this terrifying room after a real-life conference room at the BBC, where he had to sit through agonizingly boring meetings. But in the story, Room 101 is custom designed to subject each specific prisoner to their own ultimate unspeakable phobia. And for Winston, that happens to be a cage of starving rats strapped directly to his face.
In this moment of just pure, visceral panic, the threat of the rats is too much. Winston's mind completely shatters. He screams for them to do it to Julia instead. He betrays the woman he loves, and with that single betrayal, his resistance officially dies. The final scene of the story shows Winston's hollow, tired face sitting in a cafe, staring up at a telescreen. His spirit is entirely broken, and he whispers this devastating final realization: "I love Big Brother." The party didn't just kill him. They achieved their true ultimate goal, the complete annihilation of the individual soul.
It is a deeply, deeply unsettling ending. But let's pull out of the fiction for a second and look at our reality. How different is Oceania's forced surveillance from the world we live in today? In 1984, the surveillance was physical tyranny, right? Inescapable telescreens and forced compliance. Today, well, we have smartphones, algorithms tracking our every movement, and omnipresent cameras. But the truly wild difference? We voluntarily carry the tracking devices in our pockets. We actually pay for them.
When every single click, comment, and physical location is recorded, the psychological toll actually starts to mimic the self-censorship of 1984. We basically create an invisible, data-driven prison for ourselves. People become afraid to speak their true minds because they fear digital mobs, algorithmic blacklisting, or endless corporate tracking. The control might not be a physical boot stamping on a human face, but it is absolutely a silent, profound manipulation of our behavior.
It's just absolutely fascinating, and let's be honest, more than a little terrifying, how clearly George Orwell saw the vulnerabilities of the human mind way back in the 1940s. So I want to leave you with a provocative question to really chew on today. As you navigate this world of constant digital connection, voluntarily handing over your data, your preferences, and your thoughts, who is your big brother? Keep that in the back of your mind the next time you blindly tap agree on an app's terms of service. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember, always, always protect your right to think freely.